ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This 47th floor is very familiar to me because I think once every quarter I come here and meet Mandy and Yvonne and my colleagues, and myself of course, and my colleagues in RCBC Capital. I've been on that board I think for more than 17 years or something, 18 years. So I'm going to miss it a lot, but I asked the chairman, Yvonne, that as soon as I leave the government, to please elect me back to that board. So Yvonne, I'll hold, where were you? So please, I'll hold you to that promise. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you, before a new administration takes over. The past few days were exciting ones for the entire global and business financial community. A week ago, the United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union. This is a move without precedent, and certainly one that the markets only half expected. Nearly everyone expected a close contest in the British referendum with a vote to remain in the European community, eventually winning out at the end. This would have been like the Scottish referendum, where after months of heated debate, the status quo eventually triumphed. Unfortunately, that was not what happened in the Brexit vote. Those demanding Britain exit the EU won by a slim margin, and all hell broke loose. Markets fell across the board, and the pound sterling fell sharply against the US dollar. This particular event, I think, was an event that's very unique in the world where actually everyone loses. And I don't see anybody who can possibly gain from this Brexit. Fortunately, the Philippines is financially strong at the moment, thanks to the policies of the former administration, and I don't think we're going to be very much affected by the Brexit. But then, let's wait and see, because this type of contagion can spread all over the globe very quickly. This vote is not unique. The financial system is heir to unlikely turns and unseemly outcomes. That is why those tasked with managing the finances of nations need to be constantly attuned to rising risks and the drift of public sentiment. In our own case, the May 9 elections were widely interpreted as a protest vote against the status quo that seemed unresponsive to the plight of the poor. That unresponsiveness is due not only to the insensitivity of the outgoing administration, it is also due to the more profound logic of the modern economy that tends to create fewer jobs and lower pay, creating social tensions and widespread disillusionment. We are conscious both of the more immediate causes of our public's disenchantment, as well as its more structural basis. The incoming Duterte administration seeks to address the short-term concerns while looking far ahead to build an economy that is fairer to our people. Both in the short-term goals and its longer-term strategies must cohere and deliver palpable results. Otherwise, we could reap more profound disillusionment. In the short term, there are a number of measures that may be undertaken to bring immediate relief to our people. We can reform the tax rates to spare our wage earners the harsh effects of overtaxation. We can increase public spending, particularly infrastructure, taking advantage of its high multiplier effect, the creation of jobs, and making business startups possible. We are looking at dramatically increasing infrastructure investments to to as much as 5% of our GDP so that public spending will have an immediate effect on the people's economy. We intend to take the traffic crisis by its horns, not only because of the great economic costs of congestion, but also because of its adverse effects on the health and quality of life of our labor force. Over the medium and the long term, we seek to improve productivity in agriculture and temper the population growth. The front-loading of our infra investments intends precisely to achieve the more strategic goals of dispersing economic opportunities, improving our nation's logistical backbone, and meeting the employment needs of our young population. It is in the continuum of immediate policy responses and long-term strategic goals that the 10-point socio-economic agenda of the Duterte administration was conceived. A number of policy issues require our urgent attention, mainly because that is what our people expect, and these are the reasons they voted as they did last May. The urgent things include immediate curbing of criminality, especially relating to the epidemic of illegal drugs, cracking down on systemic corruption, especially in our revenue agencies, bringing down tax rates, and eventually simplifying our tax system. Eventually, we will have to address the need of constitutional renovation. This will help facilitate growth dispersal by empowering local governments. It will alter the system of representation, enabling our marginalized sectors to more meaningfully participate in policy making. It will clear all the obsolete economic orthodoxies enshrined in the existing charter. Over the long term, we see programs that will revolutionize agriculture. With severe limits in our arable land, we should strive for higher value creation in our farms. Otherwise, agriculture will remain the poverty trap it has been for decades. In a more competitive world, our prosperity depends on massive public investments in our human resources. These investments will be directed not only towards improving our educational system, but also for improving public access to health services. A malnourished population cannot be a competitive one. In a consultation held last week in Davao City with leaders of the business community, one concrete suggestion was to build a national ID system. This will go a long way towards properly targeting public services and subsidies. This idea actually was started by President Fidel V. Ramos in the mid-90s. It has finally come to flower, Mr. President. The conditional cash transfer so lavishly funded by the outgoing administration has been basically blind because there is no means to specifically target the assistance. Judging from the outcome of the Davao consultation meeting of the business community, the business community seems to welcome initiatives towards improving capitalization of our agricultural sector, integrating farm systems in novel ways to produce higher value crops and make farming more economically rewarding. Modernizing our farm sector involves more than subsidizing seeds and fertilizers inputs to encourage intercropping. It requires mapping out our land use policies so that our housing and farm needs are met. Our businessmen are urging the new government to dramatically improve the ease of doing business in this country. I was just told that former SGB chairman Gloria Climaco commented that in the past she could fill out her own ITR. Apparently now she has to hire an accountant to do so. Now if Gloria has to do that, can you imagine what the small business enterprises have to do. This includes not only deploying more information technology to serve clients better, but also reducing the number of steps required to get things done. It will help if telecommunications firms step up the quality of their service and bring down the costs. There was a clear call in the Davao Forum for upholding policies governing responsible mining. We have the framework to do this. It is called the Mining Act of 1995, again passed under the administration of President Fidel V. Ramos, that was upheld by the Supreme Court after a decade of deliberation. By the way, if our administration sounds like a continuation of President Ramos' administration, we will be very proud to be that. Our stakeholders expect the regional dispersal of industries to happen at a faster pace. To enable this, the labor force in the localities need to be prepared, along with modernization of our transport networks. I assure you that the dispersal of economic activity is high in the agenda of the incoming presidency. This is a mandate made emphatically by our voters in the last elections. At that forum, the business community sought to review the CCT program. That is the 4 Ps. This should be more than a system of dispensing state patronage. It should be transformed into a program that improves skills and opens real employment opportunities to our poor. The public-private partnership program likewise requires dramatic review, as sought by the businessmen during the Davao Forum. As it stands, the PPP group program seems to be understood principally as a means to raise short-term revenues for government, rather than a powerful instrument for unleashing the power of private investments to prepare our economy for sustainable growth. I assure you that both the concept and the execution of the PPP program will be dramatically reviewed. This should only secondarily be a tool for raising revenues. This is first and foremost an opportunity to bring in the private sector participation into nation building. The PPP program will, in the new dispensation, no longer be a PowerPoint presentation. Consistent with the new attitude towards genuine public-private partnership, we welcome unsolicited proposals. Government does not have the monopoly of innovative ideas. Last week, a public-private partnership for the Davao coastal area was inaugurated. In the same spirit, the new presidency will encourage local government units to initiate their own development partnerships. This will be consistent with the strategy of decentralization and dispersal that is central in the development vision of President Rodrigo Duterte. There are a lot of things to be done over the next few weeks. The 10-point socio-economic program unveiled by President Duterte will have to be fleshed out into clear policy dictates. The items will require legislation, such as the tax reform program, which will be submitted for congressional consideration within the year. So too will policies such as the proposed special powers to deal with the traffic situation. Again, I will refer to President Ramos because he faced a power problem at that time and he had special powers to solve it, which fortunately he did. Fortunately, we have much elbow room today. The massive debt overhang that constrained our fiscal policies during the 80s and 90s have been largely contained. The credit upgrades we saw the past few years can now be translated into something more meaningful for our people. Cheaper money that government can use to front-load infrastructure development which entrepreneurs can use to build enterprises. The incoming Budget Secretary promised that the underspending of the past few years will no longer happen. We expect aggressive public spending to meet our social goals. The reform program, in a reform program as comprehensive as we imagine it, there will be a lot of rethinking going on. The administration has indicated openness to unsolicited ideas from the private sector. We will take every suggestion with great seriousness. I foresee a government run on consultations and driven by consensus. This is how modern government should be. It should not only be transparent in its procedures, but also open in its attitude. Let us keep our communication lines open, and we will all work to achieve the nation that our people deserve. Thank you very much.